Welcome everyone to another episode of A World of Chaos. It's another top 10 list, another list that I really think everyone's going to enjoy. And since I have a top 10 list, might as well bring my mans in with me. Kamikaze Kev, what's going on, Kev?
Come on, brother. Just sitting here, waiting on this top 10.
Yeah, and of all the lists I've done on all the different podcasts, this is actually the first time I've ever actually done this list. So this is actually going to be pretty fun. It's actually the second time I've done that because the top 10 Simpsons list, which you should see somewhere around here, is the first time I ever did that list. So starting a good trend. First, let everybody know where they can find you on your social media, Kev.
On Facebook, it's Kevin D. No, not even Kevin D. Russ anymore. It's just Kevin Russ.
Right.
And on Instagram and Twitter, it's what is it? Kamikaze Kev 007.
All right.
Yeah.
And you're part of the Reality Era News page on Facebook too, right?
Yeah, I am sometimes. and sometimes on Knockouts 3 Count. So.
Yeah. Shouts out to Knockouts and 3 Counts. Shouts out to Kyle. All right. So what we're going to be doing right here is we're going to be giving our top 10 DC animated films. And as a caveat, this is not just the DC animated films that were in continuity that was redone earlier last year with the Justice League Apocalypse War. This is encompassing all DC animated films. So we're talking Batman Bad Blood, Batman Beyond's movie. We're talking Mask of the Phantasm, which could be on this list. We're talking every DC animated film that has come out probably in the last 29 years. Mind you,
make it 30.
Yeah, might as well just round up to 30, but we do have different continuities, so we're not just staying in continuity. We have some that are from the early 90s. We have some that'll probably be from the mid 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s, even possibly up to 2020. So this is going to be an entire encompassing of the DC animated film universe, not just the ones that are in continuity with each other, but some of them actually do flow into each other. If you've never seen them, I can't recommend them enough. They're some of the best animated films I've ever seen. You do have a lot that actually are in continuity with each other, so there is a required watching order. You will get some storylines that do continue from one movie to another. Some are direct sequels, and some are just still in the same world. You do get a lot of the same actors that reprise their same roles as their same characters in multiple films, so that does help. You do even have some of the actors that originated in the TV shows, such as Batman, the animated series, Superman, the animated series, Justice League Unlimited, and they do go on to voice their same roles in a lot of incarnations, especially with Kevin Conroy as Batman.
And Mark Hamill as Joker.
The best Joker. And you can at me. You can at me at that. All right. So, Kev, you can start us off, and this actually will be a list that is going in our actual order from our number 10 up to our number 1, our favorite DC animated film. So, Kev, kick us off. What is your number 10 DC animated film?
Number 10 DC animated film is Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay.
That's a good one.
Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay. The whole base of the whole plot of the story was that what's her name? Waller.
Amanda
Waller had put everybody together to get a stone that is held by Tobias, and basically she put this whole different team. It's not even the original Suicide Squad that everybody know of. It's a whole different team that she put to try to get the stone from Tobias the whole time. And Tobias it's not even the person they really trying to get it from. They really was trying to get it from Deadshot the whole time. So overall, that is my top 10. This is my number 10 movie.
Yeah, that one too. I know a lot of people when the live action Suicide Squad movie came out. I do know people that said they actually prefer the plot of the animated film over the live action Suicide Squad movie because it made more sense. even in that film, you're introducing some of the similar characters, but even in animated form, where they had less time than the live action film, they did a better job introducing the characters, and it was a more coherent plot. But I'm not going to go on that DC rant on this episode. My number 10 film is Superman, Batman, Public Enemies. That one came out back in 2009, which back then, that's when they were really starting, at least I noticed, they were really starting to make a push to put out the DC animated films, and they were kind of becoming a big deal. You did start seeing a lot of the actors that were in the original the original cartoons coming back. So you did have Kevin Conroy as Batman, and you had Tim Daly coming back as the voice of Superman. In a lot of the DC animated films, you do have at least 1 to 2 actors that do the same role. I mean, that is Kevin Conroy does Batman, because he's done it since Batman the Animated Series that started back in 1992. He's done it in the Batman Arkham games, and he even actually did the live action version of Batman in Crisis on Infinite Earths on the CW. Tim Daly, who did the voice of Superman in the original Superman animated series back in '95, that came out after Batman, that was in continuity with that. George, George, I think his name is, I forget his name. I apologize, I forget his name. He's also done the voice. He did the voice for Superman in the Justice League series. They've usually switched out the roles, but for me, hearing Tim Daly do Superman and Kevin Conroy do Batman, that always just makes me feel like a 10-year-old again. For that movie, for Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, that one is a movie that follows where Superman and Batman go on the run after it looks like that Superman is responsible for a missile attack going off. That actually introduces Power Girl, which is another version of Supergirl. It's a good film. It's actually one of the ones that really started getting me back into watching the DC animated films. So Superman, Batman, Public Enemies is good. The animation is good too. I know we'll probably get into this later on with some of our picks, but some of the animation choices they made going forward with some of the films, I didn't groove too much with. I'm guessing it's not on your list. It's not on mine, but it's the Justice League Atlantis film, the one that primarily stars Aquaman. I was not feeling that animation.
Look, okay, in my defense, before the Aquaman movie came out, I was so down on Aquaman. I'm down on Aquaman.
You know what, man? He always took a kick. You know, a lot of that's owed to Robot Chicken. Like Robot Chicken used to just kick him in the and that's the reason why, because I've seen so much of that. And the fact of the matter, if it wasn't for him, I would have never watched Batman vs Superman. I hear that. I've heard that. Like, they had to go out and cast Khal Drogo, like the most badass dude, Jason Momoa, most badass dude you can think of, to play a character that the general public would just think, oh, he talks to fish, he's lame. Yeah, he might be, but you ain't gonna say that shit to Jason Momoa. All right, Kev, so what's your number 9 film?
My number 9 would be Teen Titans: The Judas Contract.
Oh man, that's a good one. Honestly, that's not on my list. That's why I said we ain't gonna do no honorable mentions, because if we had, that was right there.
No. The crazy thing is, I'm looking at my list. I promise you, at least 2 of these are on your list.
And that's the thing with these. I tried to think of the ones that, like, I don't want to talk about the exact same films, but I'm like, at least we have enough to where we're gonna have some overlap, but I don't think it'll be the exact same list.
No, I was like, we will at least have 2 though. That for a fact, I know.
Especially with Batman being both of our favorite character, I'm for sure that like we said earlier, I'm like, Batman's on a lot of my list. Like, just full transparency, on a lot of these.
All right, and I haven't even got the Batman yet. So
right.
So number 9 would be Teen Titans: The Judas Contract. Now this one brings Dick Grayson back to the Teen Titans as they as they as he saves Star Girl from her, I forgot where he saved her from, but he saved Star Girl because she became a Teen Titan. And in this movie, years later, they show Terror as she becomes a new member of the Titans and turned on them and started working with Deathstroke. That you know what? I watched this movie a couple months ago and was like, you know what? I kind of enjoy their cartoons more than they actual movies.
Yeah. I mean, the Teen Titans. I mean, growing up with them, like I didn't know too much about them when I was a kid, but when the cartoon came out, I loved the cartoon, and I think you can technically count that as an anime almost because it is anime inspired with the way they went with the animation. So I guess you can say I'm into that anime. But yeah, the Teen Titans, man, especially like when you actually start paying attention to them and actually showing them love, like you got the live action Titans series, like Titans,
which is my favorite one.
I'm saying I'm in season 2 now. I'm loving it. I love the fact that it plays into realism to where it's not too fantastical, but then it does get fantastical because you have the daughter of a demon with Raven, you know. So I'm a big fan of the Titans.
Not to mention Dick is from Detroit.
That helped, and I heard that before I seen it, and I forgot. And the first episode, when they say Dick Grayson's a cop for Detroit, I'm like, yo, I feel that shit. Like I feel that. Like, all right, like yeah, like if Detroit wasn't Gotham City, if you left Gotham City, you would obviously go to Detroit because it's probably similar enough to Gotham City.
And I'm so glad they didn't put Gotham City and Detroit right next to each other.
Oh man. Like even in Batman v Superman, where they have it to where Metropolis and Gotham City are just separated by like
vertical water.
I'm like, bruh, like they ain't that close. Like I'm a nerd enough to know Gotham is supposed to be in New Jersey, and New York. Metropolis is in fucking Kansas. Like Smallville is supposed to be that far away from it.
That's what I thought Metropolis was in Minnesota or something like that.
They've always played fast and loose when it comes to Metropolis. With Gotham City, it's either New York or New Jersey. The reason why it's really kind of more New Jersey is because it does have a big downtown area, but then it has a Palisades area to where Wayne Manor would be. So like you couldn't have like Bruce Wayne be in that cavernous mansion in like the countryside and then not have him that close to a city. So even the DC actual Atlas puts it close there, but Gotham is an East Coast city, but it's Metropolis. It is the hardest one because it's a huge downtown area, but then it's still close enough to Kansas for Smallville to be jumping back and forth. So that was a good pick. That was a good pick. I know this one. I don't know, but I'm guessing this one is, if it's not on your list, it's pretty close. It was probably gonna be honorable mention. I'm going old school. My 9th one is Batman: Mask of the Phantasm.
You know what? I knew you were gonna put it on your list. I didn't put it on my list, but I had pulled out the VHS to show you. and I don't even know what I did with it.
My man.
Yo, man. When we supposed to do the show on Monday, I put the VHS out. I don't remember what I did with it though.
Yeah, man. Like when we thought of this list, I'm like, that was probably like the top 4 that I just thought of off rip. Like that one, like I saw that in the theater. Like that was a big deal for me as a kid, man. Like when we were kids, we grew up with the best version of Batman, the animated series version. And then I think it was only like, about a year and a half to 2 years into them doing the show, he gets his own but he gets his own big, theater film that you can go from seeing him on the screen at home to go to the movie theater, and it's an original story. So Batman: Mask of the Phantasm, if you have never seen it, it is in continuity with the Batman the Animated Series from 1992, has all the same exact actors, animators, and writers. It stars Kevin Conroy as Batman, and it introduces a brand new character that was created just for that universe. Actually, the same that kind of went with Harley Quinn also, because Harley Quinn didn't exist before that series. She was created just for that series and is now in continuity. Same with this character, the Phantasm. So it starts out as more of a prequel to the actual events of the actual cartoon. It shows Bruce Wayne dealing with the death of his parents, as he's always wanted to do. And he actually, after I think just after college, before he really goes off into the world and starts becoming Batman, he meets a woman, falls in love with her. She actually has a tragic backstory with her parent, as comic book characters are usually one to do. They fall in love, but they realize they're not really able to be together. They break up. Bruce becomes Batman, and she actually becomes a serial killer known as the Phantasm. The Joker is involved in it, as he's always wanted to be involved. I've always loved it because the character, the Phantasm, is a woman. So this was a female antagonist that didn't look like a female antagonist. The design of the Phantasm is absolutely badass. It looks like a mix of the Grim Reaper with a little of Jason, with a little of like some demons like shit with a hand. Like, so the Phantasm as a character just looks absolutely badass. So it is really cool to see a female antagonist for Batman's, and there was actually a physical match because she was trained similar to him.
Okay.
So what's your next one, Kev?
Okay, my number 8 would be Batman Bad Blood. Now,
all right.
This will be the first Batman movie that I can think of that had Robin, Nightwing, Batwing, Batwoman, and it was got the other one. Well, all the Bat family.
Yeah. And that's one of the things the two people always forget. Like, they always, especially in the live action versions recently, they always put Batman as a loner, but Batman has probably the biggest supporting cast of any comic book character. Like, he has a family of characters.
Yeah, and they all own little suits.
Right. Like that Batcave is stacked up. You got, like you said, you got Batman suit, you got a Robin suit, you got a Red Robin suit, you got a Batgirl suit, a Batwoman suit, a Nightwing suit, a Batwing suit.
Yeah. So in this one, Bruce Wayne comes up missing. So Damian and Dick decide to join forces and look for Batman. And all along, Damian's mother has him. So you already know where to go from there. So
yeah, that was good too, because it, like I said, I'm a big Nightwing fan. Like, Nightwing is in my top 10 favorite comic book characters. Growing up to see Dick Grayson as Robin and then going to see him as Nightwing, like, I grew with him. You know, I mean, granted, he had been Nightwing even before we were born, but as a kid, you first find out about Batman, then you find out about Robin, then you find out about Nightwing. And I just always remember that first episode on the Batman the Animated Series, where you actually see Nightwing. That was one of the most badass introductions I've ever seen. He just takes off, puts the wings out, and just starts kicking ass.
See, that's what, you know what though? I love Dick Grayson as Nightwing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like in Universe 52 that Damian is Nightwing. I don't like that.
No, and that's the thing. Like, some of them like are mantles, but I'm like, Robin is the mantle that he's passed on. Nightwing is Dick Grayson. You know, and
right.
I just talking about Robins real quick. Like, my favorite actual Robin is Tim Drake. That's that's my favorite Robin. I mean, all of them added something differently, but like, if I think of like my favorite version of Robin, and the one I grew up with is the Tim Drake Robin.
Let me think. It'll probably be Tim Drake, because Dick Grayson, he was cool, but he became my favorite when he became Nightwing. Right. Damian just became just peeped his here in the last 10 years, basically.
Right.
So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good one. So for my number 8, mine is the 2019 film, so it's a more recent one, but mine is The Reign of Superman.
You know what? I have not one Superman movie on my list.
Soup's my second.
You know why?
That's the only thing we disagree with. Superman's my number 2. He ain't in your top 10 for sure. I knew I was like, when I was thinking of, I'm like, I gotta show my man's Big Blue Boy Scout some love on this one, because they do better in the animated versions with Superman than they do with the live action versions of Superman over the last couple.
I can agree with that, because I just watched the Superman Reign movie. I just watched that, so yeah.
Yep. So this one is actually the sequel to The Death of Superman. This one actually takes place 6 months after The Death of Superman. So if you're watching these in order, if you're watching the DCAU in the chronological order from the series that started with the Flashpoint Paradox, this one is directly after The Death of Superman. It takes place primarily in Metropolis, and it pretty much encompasses the actual Reign of Superman comic book event that actually did proceed The Death of Superman, where you have different characters who try to take up the mantle of Superman. So you have Cyborg Superman, you have Steel, you have the Eradicator, and you have Superboy. And this actually was a very well-made film. It was only like 90 minutes, but that actually took a bunch of volumes of different Superman comic books and actually comprised them into the story, which I knew the story, and me watching it, I knew certain beats that were going to happen, but I was still entertained with it. I grew up in the 90s getting into comic books, and the big event that happened back in 92 was Death of Superman. So me getting into comics at that exact time, real quick, my dad actually thought he was going to make money off of that comic book. Right about now, he figured that comic book would be worth millions of dollars. So he went out and bought a couple of them. They ain't shit now, because everybody went out and did the exact same thing. But that got me into comics. So like that was actually a tipping point for me getting into Superman comics. So I got in right after The Death of Superman, during the Reign of Superman saga. And one of not my top 10 characters, but one of my favorite characters is this version of Superboy. You know, the 90s Superboy with the red tights, with the black leather jacket, with the shades. Like that was my dude, man. That's what got me into Superboy comic books. So this actually does have that version. It has Steel, who was the first actual time I ever actually saw a black superhero. I'd never remembered seeing a black superhero before I ever saw Steel. So that was actually, you know, pretty cool for me, because I hadn't really seen Black Panther at that point. I wasn't really in the Marvel comics then. So seeing Steel, that was absolutely badass to see a black guy with the Superman crest on his chest.
It's Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, and I ain't gonna lie, I've seen that movie a lot. They used to run that movie hella on Cinemax. Like that was always in rotation. Like I saw Ray J more than I saw my damn mama at some points during the day.
Oh, that's funny.
What's your seventh one?
My number 7 is Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. Now, in this movie, the Joker gang tried to steal some electronics, some of the electromagnetics, and Terry McGinnis, who I found out later on was also Batman's son. That's a different story. But
yeah. And I actually didn't see that. I actually found that out years after that. I had stopped watching Justice League at that point, so I didn't know that until I was watching some type of top 10 video on the end. I'm like, whoa. They actually said that Terry is Bruce's son? Like, that's just crazy. I don't remember people talking about this shit.
But that's a different story. But so they report back to the leader, who turns out to be the Joker. But overall, and Bruce Wayne thought Joker was dead, but Joker is dead. Who it was Timothy Drake, brainwashed, because Joker brainwashed him years prior. So
I always thought they should have gave that more love too, because that is absolutely crazy. Like that story is unbelievably crazy. Like that not that many people really saw that movie at the time, and not that people really talked about it that much, but I'm like, that is a crazy badass plot, man. Like that makes the Batman and Joker shit just go up to another level. Like not only has he killed a Robin, but he done brainwashed another one.
Yeah, and just to become him. So it turns out, Barbara and Tim, they haven't talked for four decades, so they end up making amends in the movie, and they go see by the end of the movie they go see Harley Quinn to see if see if she was still alive, which she was, but she was just elderly and reformed. So that was basically the movie.
Yeah,
and I might watch that tomorrow again.
Now you say I might watch that, man, because that one was absolutely good. Like Batman Beyond, man. I hope I'm alive to actually see a live action Batman Beyond film. Like that will honestly make me feel like I actually was able to like really like enjoy something, to see something like that.
It will all be working. It will be all worth nothing if Clint Eastwood has played older Batman. Has to.
Yeah, man. You either get Clint or shit. You can get Michael Keaton right now. He's actually probably at that. He's close to the age.
Nah, because
He's in the 60s.
Michael Keaton. But Bruce was like 80 years old when he pulled that gun out on Batman Beyond.
Shit, you throw a little extra makeup on him. I mean, like, that's not bad. The hardest part is for casting Terry McGinnis, but that's another video for another day.
Well, sorry, it had to be Tom Holland. I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna say I agree with you. I'm not gonna say I don't agree with you. My next one, and if you're keeping score on this one, you're probably thinking this one's gonna be on the list. And remember, we're doing these in order, so this one isn't in my top 5. So I know I'm gonna get some flack for that in the comments section.
I'm about to say we on number 7.
Yeah, so I know I'm gonna get some flack in the comments for having this in my 7, but hear me out. My number 7. Batman, The Killing Joke. All right, hear me out.
Okay, hold on. Hear me out. It's on my list.
I'm like, if this ain't on your list, you ain't no Batman fan. But
it's on my list, but it's so much closer.
The reason why this one is actually lower on my list. Okay, so I'll just give you the general synopsis of it, and I'll try to do it justice. So, when you think of Batman in current terms, the current Batman that you're thinking of has a lot of the DNA of Frank Miller, and it has a lot of his take on Batman from the early 80s. Batman the Killing Joke is still a top 4 Batman story. The version of Batman that we currently know now have a lot of DNA from the Killing Joke, from Batman The Dark Knight Returns, Batman Year One. So a lot of that DNA that came from the late 80s, early 90s is in this version of Batman. This story is an iconic story where the Joker shoots Barbara Gordon and paralyzes her, which is what leads her to go on to become Oracle. He kidnaps Commissioner Jim Gordon and tries to prove that any good person can turn evil if they have one bad day. He proceeds to torture Jim Gordon. He shows him pictures. He's taken of Barbara dying, as he believed, on the ground with her bullet wounds in them. It is also the story that introduced the quote-unquote origin of the Joker, showing him as a version that he would most likely tell as his origin, which we still don't know is actually true, of him being a failed comedian, of him being wrangled into becoming the Red Hood, and his first encounter with the Batman, which actually would lead him to being dropped into the vat of acid, becoming the Joker we know. It has one of the most divisive endings in a comic book, where the last couple panels show Batman and the Joker laughing. Batman puts his hands on the Joker, and then you only see one person laughing. So you can take it as Batman killed the Joker. You can take it as Batman just stopped laughing. It is left up to interpretation whether Batman actually broke. The animated film when I first heard about it, I was immensely excited. I know this story. I've read this story in comic book form. I had always wanted to see this done in some version, whether it be live action or animated. It has Tara Strong in it, who has done the voice of Harley Quinn and other great characters in the DCAU. It has Kevin Conroy as Batman and Mark Hamill as the Joker. Mark Hamill actually retired from the role of Joker and said the only time he would ever come back to reprise his role as the Joker would be in a version of The Killing Joke. That's the only way you'll get him out of retirement. He did. Him and Kevin Conroy actually recorded their lines together in the same studio, so they were actually acting off of each other, which is very rare in animated films. If usually one person records their lines, a couple weeks later another person records their lines, and they just put them together. They actually got in the same studio at the same time and were acting versus each other doing this. The reason why this is so low is they bloated the film with a half hour with a prelude to The Killing Joke, which follows Batgirl and her affair with Batman. That's what killed it for me. Yes, you had to make the movie a certain length, but you could have just really just done more with Batman and the Joker. Tara Strong does a good version as Batgirl, but I didn't need to see a 19-year-old Barbara Gordon having sex with a 30-some-year-old Bruce Wayne when she's been in a relationship previously with Dick Grayson. It added nothing to the Killing Joke part of the film because it wasn't part of continuity before. It was completely made up for the animated film, and to me, it just stops the movie before it even starts. So that's why I have it so low. I love the film still because it's still one of my all-time favorite Batman stories, but it's just that beginning that just kills it for me.
I say what I gotta say. I say my rebuttal to you when I get to that part of my list.
All right.
My number 6 is Batman Sub-Zero. Now, this movie whole thing is Mr. Freeze. Well, you know the story of Mr. Freeze. It's basically the same story. He freezes the whole city just to find a cure for his dying wife.
And the thing is, they never really showed, like they've shown versions of her, but like the one thing I've never really seen, and maybe out there, but I've never really seen like them pre her getting frozen. Because I always wonder, I'm like, what if she's an asshole? Like, you know, like what if she's rude? Like, you go through all this shit for this woman. What if she's really like not that nice of a person?
Well, they showed that on Gotham. If you ever watched it,
I dipped in and out of Gotham, man. Like they got a little.
Okay. Okay. On season 3 of Gotham, the whole season was about Mr. Freeze.
Oh, and, yeah, I remember some of that. Yeah, that costume looked horrible.
Yeah, so it showed that they both was working together when she got sick. So it made sense, you know. But that movie, I think it came out like 1999. I think it was. It was early.
Yeah. It was a 90s.
98, 99. I remember that movie. Like, I remember bits and pieces of the movie. I just remember him freezing the whole city of Gotham, and I remember Batman breaking the glass his wife was in. That's the only thing I really remember about the movie for real, though.
Actually, that came out in 1998.
Wow.
Which is funny too, because that came out the same year as Batman and Robin. I mean, the year after Batman and Robin.
Horrible movie.
So you have that Batman and Mr. Freeze adventure, and then this Batman and Mr. Freeze adventure.
But this one was so much better than the movie.
Yeah,
live action.
You couldn't have been worse. You couldn't have did worse than Stay Frosty. Oh God.
You know what? My homeboy Aiden, I was telling him about the different Batman movies because he was like he never seen like so many movies, and I was like, okay. I was like, look, if you watch, I told him if you watch The Dark Knight, you ain't gotta watch nothing else. But I think about it, he need to watch some of these animated films.
Oh yeah, I mean, it adds so much to it, and like, especially like when I first maybe just to get off topic, like when I first saw the Batman Begins film, when they take a good portion of that film to show you Bruce traveling the world, and then like his training with the League of Assassins, I'm like, this is the first time we've ever seen this in live action. Like, I've seen this in the cartoon because they gave his backstory. I'm like, that I've never seen this. So that's what let me know that movie and that franchise was going to be something different, because it actually showed you Batman becoming Batman. Like, you'd never seen that before. I'm like, okay, this is serious. Like, I knew this, but the dude next to me in the movie theater, he ain't no Batman trained with ninjas. He just thought Batman was just Batman. I'm like, no, Batman's a ninja.
Right.
All right.
Nah. Let's see. Go ahead. We on number 6, sir.
Yeah. So my number 6, The Death of Superman from 2000, and I think it's 18. It came out before. It's the movie that 17. Yeah, you would see this before you would see The Reign of Superman. And this is a movie that they've actually made before in the DC animated film universe. This is actually like the third telling of this story in the last 15 years. Superman Doomsday was basically this. You also had another arc when one of the DC shorts that had this, but this is the actual from comic book adaptation of The Death of Superman. It has a great cast in it. A lot of DC animated universe mainstays. It does have, let me double check and I'm right. It has, which is actually pretty funny, it has Jerry O'Connell as Superman, but it actually has his real life wife, Rebecca Romijn, who you'll know as Mystique from the original X-Men films. That's his actual wife as Lois Lane. So you actually have a husband and wife playing Superman and Lois Lane, which I thought that was actually pretty cool. You also have, probably I say he's done the voice a couple times now, but Rainn Wilson, who you'll know as Dwight from The Office, as Lex Luthor, and he actually does a pretty good job as Luthor. Like, he's done the role a few times now, and he does a good job as an animated Lex Luthor. But this is, if you don't know about The Death of Superman, you probably never really heard too much about comics, because this is one of the most iconic storylines in the history of all comic books. It's Superman. He's just being Superman, and then out of nowhere, you have this unstoppable monster Doomsday that comes to Metropolis and that can't be killed by any conventional means. Superman has the biggest fight of his life and winds up losing his life during the fight. It's iconic. It's one of the greatest comic book arcs of all time. I remember when I was a kid, like I said before, this is what got me into comic books, because this was a landmark event. Not too many superheroes died in the comics, and then to take the biggest superhero of all time, that was a pretty big deal. And the fact that we knew we were getting the death of Superman and the next step, the Reign of Superman telling, to actually tell that full arc, to really give them enough time. It's a great film.
You know what? I might have to watch it, because I have only one I've seen was Superman All-Star.
I'm saying it's great when you watch The Death of Superman and then immediately watch Reign of Superman. It's a tight, like, it's not exactly Infinity War into Endgame, because you have a lot more build up in Infinity War because you know the characters from a decade. But watching this entire story, and the fact that it's 2 films, it gives it enough time, because they've thrown in just the death of Superman and then his resurrection in one film before. The fact that you have the death in one film and then the resurrection in another, it really does give it time to breathe and really lets it become like the grand arc that it should be. All right, what's your next one, Kev?
Okay, my number 5 is Teen Titans Go to the Movies. Now, Teen Titans Go to the Movies. Yes, this movie is possibly the funniest cartoon movie I've ever seen in my life.
I'm gonna actually agree with you on that, my brother. That film is absolutely hilarious. And just remember, one of my favorite jokes is one of the earliest jokes, and where they're fighting the big monster, and he's like, "You guys, the Guardians of the Galaxy?" Like, no, we're Titans.
No. My favorite thing, and they feel like, yeah, we about to have a movie, our movie premiere. They were like, the utility belt, the movie, like the Batmobile, the movie, Alfred, the movie, like what?
Right. No, look, I love the joke they have too. It's funny too. Like they have other Justice Leaguers in there, so they have Green Lantern, who's voiced by Lil Yachty, the rapper. Right. And the joke they make is really funny. And they make a joke about Green Lantern having a film. He's like, yeah, but we don't talk about that.
It took a while, but yeah, I have my own now.
There was a Green Lantern movie, but we don't talk about that.
Problem.
Yo, man, yeah, that film was legit hilarious.
Man, yeah, man, the whole name was like, he's like, your name sound cool, Slade.
Yo, low key, anytime I see Deathstroke since then, I do that. Like I saw a teaser for Titan season 3, and it's all serious, and I'm watching it. In the back of my head, I'm thinking Slade. Yo, man, like that was so close to being on my list, man. Like that's real close. That was real close to being on my list.
Man, you know, it's in my top 5 though, so it's crazy.
All right, now it's getting serious. Now we're getting top 5. My next one, my number 5, Batman Hush.
You know what? I just watched that.
Man, that film was good, man. Like I said, Hush is probably the top 4, 5 Batman story.
Mm-hmm.
They did add in a little bit to it with the Catwoman saga. Batman Hush is a film that it was gonna be hard to make because it encompassed a lot from the actual DC universe in the actual comic book. But Batman finds out that there's a serial killer going around stealing people's faces. He's finding out that Bruce Wayne is getting accused of stuff. It takes you back to when he was a kid and his childhood best friend, Tommy Elliott, a kid that had everything. He was basically had everything set up for him like Bruce Wayne. When Bruce's parents died and Bruce became an instant billionaire, Tommy got jealous and wanted to have all of his parents' money to himself. Tommy actually kills his parents and goes on to become a villain that figures out Batman is Bruce Wayne. That actually has one of the best fights of Batman versus Superman, because in that whole overarching plot, Hush gets Poison Ivy to find kryptonite pheromones and uses that to control Superman. And then you have Superman versus Batman in that movie also. So it's a great animated film. When I first saw it, I knew the story. They did have to make some changes to it, but when I'm watching, I'm like, damn, this might be one of my all-time favorite DC animated films. Like as I'm watching, I'm like, yeah, they knew what they were doing with this film. All right, so what's your next one?
Number 4 would be Justice League versus Teen Titans. In Justice League versus Teen Titans, we have Trigon. Trigon possessed Justice League. So it takes the Teen Titans to try to save the Justice League from Dalmatian, and at the same time trying to get Raven to remember who she is, because Trigon is her father.
Mm-hmm. Which is a big arc in the Titans TV series too. They really did a good job adapting that. Mm-hmm.
Season 2, yeah. So basically, they try to save. They can't possess Superman. So basically, Superman and the Titans save the Justice League.
Pretty much. Yeah, that was a great film. All right, my number 4, Justice League Doom. This is the film that actually got me into collecting the DC animated films on home media. Even when they would come out, I might borrow the DVD, I might buy it on demand, but I wouldn't physically go out and grab them if I wasn't really just looking for them. Justice League Doom is the film that got me to go out and start collecting these. Justice League Doom has a lot of the main cast from Justice League the animated series. So you have Susan Eisenberg as Wonder Woman. You have Carl Landry as Martian Manhunter. You have Kevin Conroy as Batman. It has, I think you have Michael Rosenbaum, who was Lex Luthor on Smallville, returning as the Flash. You also have Nathan Fillion from Castle as Green Lantern, who was a fan casting of that we've always wanted and never gotten. We wanted him as Green Lantern, and we've also wanted him as Nathan Drake. But yeah, so this film actually takes adaptation from the comic book arc Justice League Tower of Babel, where Batman's secret files on the entire Justice League and their weaknesses found out by the Legion of Doom, headed up by Vandal Savage. They use Mirror Master to break into the Batcave. It's actually a funny joke too, because Mirror Master wants to find out if he knows. He says, "I can find out who Batman is." Vandal Savage says, "I've already known who Batman is, and I don't care." So Vandal Savage uses Batman's files to systematically take out the Justice League in a coordinated attack that exploits their biggest weaknesses. Ironically, Batman's biggest weakness is his parents. So he has it that
for the remainder of his life,
pretty much. What made you Batman is your Achilles heel is your parents. But no, so Superman, they have Metallo shoot him, disguise himself as somebody jumping off of a bridge. I think it's not just the Daily Planet, and they have him shoot him with a kryptonite bullet. You have Wonder Woman. They lace her with a drug to make her think that she's seeing Cheetah. Yes, the Cheetah that you saw in Wonder Woman 84. Not even going to talk about that. You have her seeing Cheetah, so she starts trying to battle her, but it's basically meant so that she will actually have a heart attack, because Wonder Woman is a warrior and will not stop fighting until her enemy is dead. They have it that every person she sees is Cheetah, so she just tries to fight every single person. You have Cyborg. You have a virus put into Cyborg's system, Cyborg, so he can't use any of his electronics. You have Scarecrow's fear toxin put into concentrated form and used on the Green Lantern, because the Green Lantern's biggest power is his power of his will, and he's susceptible, and fear is his biggest weakness. So you have him afraid that he's actually not a good hero and that he actually let somebody down. He loses his willpower. The Flash, and if you've seen any Flash story, it's pretty much the same thing, to where they lace a bomb to the Flash's body and make it to where if he ever stops running, the bomb goes off, so the Flash has to keep running forever. Martian Manhunter, whose fear is fire, they lace him with a drug that makes him think that his skin is on fire. So it's actually a genius plan, because it's Batman's plan.
Hey, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
You know what, bro? You sold me. You sold me.
So it's one of the best. It's one of the best Justice League stories.
Definitely sold me.
I'm telling you, man. Like I still have that DVD, man. I'm telling you, it's a damn good movie. It's tight. It's a tight movie. So that's my next one. Justice League Doom.
You know, I never watched it,
Man,
but I will be.
I'm telling you, it's good. Like, and I'm not even gonna spoil the last couple lines are some of the most badass things Batman's ever said.
Okay. What number we on? Number
3.
We on number 3?
sir.
Number 3 would be Son of Batman.
Ooh, that's a good one.
This movie shows the rise of Damian Drake as Robin.
Damian Wayne.
And that's right. I'm bad. Damian Wayne as Robin.
Right.
And how he went from the League of Assassins to being Robin. And from seeing the most thing, I didn't know how the movie was gonna start when I first seen it. The only thing I remember about the movie at first was like, she said, "Time for you to meet your father." Like, oh, okay.
Right.
So it's one of my favorite. I'll say it's one of my favorite movies because it's just so much. There's a smart ass Damian Wayne. There's a misunderstood Damian Wayne, and there's a confused Damian Wayne.
That's what I like
all
about
in one movie.
As a character, like I initially was apprehensive of him, because I thought that he was just gonna be a character they introduced. I didn't think he was gonna become like a real part of Batman lore. He has become an essential part of Batman's lore and as a character, and I've grown to really like him. He ain't perfect. There are certain things about his character I don't like, but I like the fact that they actually created that character.
He's an asshole.
He is, but he's the son of Batman.
Thanks.
All right, my third movie, the Lego Batman movie.
I support.
I saw that movie in theaters. I saw it with one of my ex-girlfriends and her nephew, who I was close with at the time. He was all into the movie. I was all into the movie. He was into it because it was a Lego movie. I'm all into it because, for one, it's Batman. But the in-jokes that they had in that movie were so funny. And there was so many things that, like, once you watch that movie, you have to watch it a couple times to really get it.
Was that Will Sasso?
No, that was Zach Galifianakis as the Joker.
Yeah.
The Will Arnett version of Batman, who you saw in the Lego movie, is the same character, same continuity as the Lego movie. I love the fact that, and this is one of my favorite Easter eggs, they have all the Batman villains teaming up at one point, and you have Two-Face, and it's Billy D. Williams' voice. In the original 89 Batman film, Billy D. Williams played Harvey Dent.
Was Harvey Dent? He sure did.
And he was actually gonna be Two-Face until they recasted the role with Tommy Lee Jones in Batman Forever. He was still up for the role. I heard they still paid him a couple $1 million because he still had a contract to play that character. So
maybe he showed up with a Colt 45 and they recast him.
Works every time. Yo, so when I heard Billy D. Williams' voice, I popped. Like I'm a wrestling fan, so pop is when you get really excited. So when I heard that, man, I popped like, yo, that's Billy D. And I had to tell my girl, I'm like, when we get out the movie and we go to dinner, I'm gonna tell you why that shit was crazy. And there was only about 2 or 3 other people in the whole movie theater that caught that. And I heard them get excited too. Like, and we were in the dark, but like having not been in the dark, we were like, you get that shit. You get that shit too. Okay. We all know. Like I said, Teen Titans Go to Movies was real close. Like that would be my 11th one on my list. And I'm like, I gotta choose one comedy. I'm gonna have to go with Lego Batman a little over Teen Titans Go to Movies because it was a funny Batman movie, all the in jokes, and then it's just one of those ones that, like, when I saw it in the movie theater, I'm like, this might be the best Batman film.
What?
Like, it's better than Dark Knight Rises. It's better than Batman and Robin. It's better than Batman Forever. It ain't as good as Dark Knight. But it's
what?
Batman,
Dark Knight Rises. No, Tom Hardy saved that movie.
It ain't saved that much for me. That movie,
I
was let down.
I just liked it. I just liked some of the stuff that he was saying. Like, will I break first, your wheel or your back?
Yo, man, like that movie. Like, I'm not going to rant, but like that movie was hurt by the fact that you couldn't have Heath Ledger in it as the Joker because originally they were gonna have Heath Ledger return as the Joker to have Batman go against the same person twice, which they had never done in live action form. And it's just the cloud of his death, that role that he made his own as the Joker, and the fact that The Dark Knight was like the first $1 billion comic book film and was a masterpiece, heavily weighing over that film. It was going to be hard to hit it out the park. I think Christopher Nolan, he's my favorite director. He did a great job, but it still was things I didn't like about that movie. But I'm still to put the Lego Batman over the Joel Schumacher films and the second Tim Burton Batman film for sure.
You know what though? I think Dark Knight is the second Batman movie live action that I know movie from quote to quote almost.
That is Dark Knight, Batman,
and the first Batman,
and then Batman Begins. Like I can go those movies heavily.
Batman Forever for me.
Batman Forever, man. Like I you know what's funny though? I actually kind of defend that movie a little bit because people always lump that with Batman and Robin, and I'm like, look, had Batman and Robin not been as horrible as it was, yes, Batman Forever still would have been the worst Batman film, but I'm like, it ain't that bad. It's not as bad as Batman and Robin. It does have some redeeming qualities. Like Val Kilmer wasn't a bad Batman. He was a good Bruce Wayne, but he was a bad Batman.
But I didn't like George Clooney as a choice, period, though.
I think the only thing he looked like Bruce Wayne. Like if you imagine what Bruce Wayne would look like, yeah, he's gonna look like George Clooney, but that's about it. Like that's why I like the Ben Affleck version. That's why I will stand on a mountaintop with my shield, my sword, and defend Batfleck, because he was a good Bruce Wayne and a good Batman, and that's what you rarely ever seen.
That's what I'm saying. Like when you say somebody is Batman, you look at the actor, you say, "Oh, do I see?" When you say George Clooney, I don't think Batman. I think Danny Ocean.
For real. Yep. When I think Batman, I think Clooney. I'm not Clooney. I'm sorry. I think Affleck. I think Christian Bale. My only problem with Christian Bale
and Keaton.
Yeah. My only problem with Christian Bale, even though he's in my all-time favorite film and my favorite Batman film, is I don't think he was that great of a Batman. I think he was a great Bruce Wayne, but an okay Batman, because he was a great fighter, but he wasn't the world's greatest detective. And that was Batman is a lot of things, and he's the world's greatest detective.
You know, that's how I feel about Keanu Reeves. I like Keanu Reeves, but I feel like him as an actor. He ain't got to talk.
I get that. I've heard that. Like that's why I love the John Wick series, because I'm like, you don't have to talk. You can just shoot people. All right, so we down to it, man. It's the top two.
Okay, so based off of your number 7, my number 2 is The Killing Joke. But I'm not gonna go into it. What I can tell you this:
The Killing Joke is your number 2. So what makes it your number 2? It's my number 7, but it's your number 2. So what makes it your number 2?
Okay, The Killing Joke is my number 2 because it gave me everything I wanted. It gave me anger because I was mad at certain points. It gave me happiness because in some parts I was like, yeah, that was bound to happen. It gave me, I was on the edge of my seat, like, okay, what's going on now? What's about to happen? That part, and at the end, it made me laugh. The Batman laughed. You know what I mean?
Scary thought too. To think of Batman laughing too.
Yeah, it made me laugh. Now, with far as that, when I was watching it, I said, okay. I said, this is really a good movie. The movie was really so good to the point where I bought the hard copy comic book.
Okay.
It's still in plastic. I haven't even opened it.
Mm-hmm.
It was expensive. But I bought the hard copy Killing Joke comic book. Now, it's my number 2 because I enjoy everything about it. Everything.
Even the prelude part
which
with the Batgirl and the lobster dude.
I enjoyed it because only reason I enjoyed it because I wasn't familiar with the story, so I enjoyed it.
Okay.
You've been familiar with being familiar with the comic book version. You like that's not what happened. You know what I mean? So
I actually recommended that to a couple people, and I told them when they watch it, I'm like, skip to 22 minutes in. At the 22-minute mark, that's when you start watching the film. Like, skip the entire early part with her and Batman fucking. Skip that part and just start at the killing joke.
Like I said, I enjoyed the whole movie because me not knowing the original story, I heard so much about it, but me not knowing the original story, I enjoyed the whole movie.
I am mad at that.
Yeah.
My number 2 is the most recent DC animated film, and some people have called it their endgame. It is Justice League Dark Apocalypse War.
That's my honorable mention.
This movie had everything I kind of needed as a DC animated film fan. The current DC animated film universe has films that started with the Flashpoint paradox and kept things in continuity. The Flashpoint paradox may be on this list, maybe it won't be. This ends that timeline. So if you've been watching them, you have other films that have happened. They're DC films, but the ones that are in continuity started from the Flashpoint paradox, and this ends it. This is the end cap. So if you were watching the MCU in Marvel, you started Iron Man. Yeah, well, technically you could start at Captain Marvel, but anyway. But you started Iron Man, you end at Endgame. You started Flashpoint paradox, you end at Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. The main star of the film is John Constantine, being that this does have a lot to do with the mystical side of the DC animated universe. Matt Ryan reprises his role as John Constantine, which he started in the TV show, and he's on Legends of Tomorrow, so he is John Constantine.
It should have been Keanu Reeves.
Hell no.
John Constantine.
Yeah, you still kind of getting into Legends, so you haven't seen John Constantine be Matt Ryan as John Constantine. Look, Keanu's a good actor, but Matt Ryan is John Constantine. Like, I need you to go back and watch his series, the first like 13 episodes, and then they canceled them. Then watch the episode of Arrow that he guest starred on. Then start watching Legends of Tomorrow. John Constantine is an amazing character, and Matt Ryan does so much for this role. Like, Iron Man is Robert Downey Jr., Christopher Reeve, for most people, is Superman, Wolverine is Hugh Jackman, Matt Ryan is John Constantine. But it encompasses everything that had happened. You have the Teen Titans are involved, you have the Justice League, you have the Dark Justice League with Deadman, with Zatanna, with Swamp Thing. You have John Constantine, you have Apocalypse. It is a all-out war, and it is a very fulfilling watch. If you've been watching these films, you get to see closure to certain arcs, and then when the film ends, it kind of retroactively reboots everything. So we still don't know where they're going now, because this was the last film they've released. It came out in 2020. So we still don't know where they're going with
which one. Which one is that? That's Dark Apocalypse War or Dark?
Apocalypse War.
Okay, I'm looking at it right now. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's the end cap. So if you're trying to get caught up, that's where you would end it at. I don't know where they're going with this, because you've had a lot of, since then you've had continuity shakeups in the actual DC comics with the DC what is it, the new slate or something. This is where you ended at. Marvel stuck the landing with Endgame. DC animated films stuck the landing with Justice League Dark Apocalypse War.
So what's crazy is, like, okay, about 12 years ago, I had the Constantine movie, the one with Keanu Reeves.
Mm-hmm.
It was stuck in my DVD player. only movie that can play. only movie that played.
You poor
So
man.
I watched it a lot. I watched it a lot.
So wait,
To the point where
you were in your own little circle of hell.
Well, basically, it was repetitive fun. I watched it a lot because on nights where I was high, watch that movie.
You know what's funny? I've seen it once, and I can't remember that much of it. I forgot Shia LaBeouf was in the damn thing.
I still have it on DVD.
I didn't go to the theater to see it because I knew of Constantine. I'd seen a couple of the Hellblazer comics, and then when I saw Keanu, I'm like, oh no, I'm good. I'm straight. And then when I heard Shia LaBeouf, I'm like, motherfucker from Even Stevens? Nah, I'm good. Like
Hoes.
like y'all can miss me with that.
Man.
All right, man. So
this number one. First off, I know it's your number one too.
I don't think you do. My number one, and that's the thing. When I did this list, I really had to think what was going to be my number one, and I think my number one is going to surprise you.
It's a possibility. I'm gonna tell you why. It might not be your number one, but it's probably close to being your number one.
All right.
They're like our live action film is Dark Knight number one. We had to do it 11 through 2, so we do.
Right.
But my number one is Just Leave Flashpoint Paradox.
Oh, my man. Yo, that's funny. And I was thinking too, I'm like, the more you going on your list, I'm like, he ain't said Flashpoint Paradox yet. I'm like, he gotta be on the list.
This is the third list we had our number one matches.
Yo, man. It's like you can't do this list and the Flashpoint Paradox ain't in your top 3. Just objectively, it's top 3. Like just I know it's yours. I mean, we share some of shit, but like the moment at the end where Barry gives Bruce the note from his father and you see Bruce crying, like, God damn it, man, that hit me right in my chest.
Yeah.
Like you see Batman crying and you just like that emotion. Like you think of Batman's story, like he got a note from his dad telling him how much he was proud of him and how much he loved him. Like, damn it, that hit me right in my chest.
Man, me too. Man, duh.
So if you ain't seen the Flashpoint Paradox, it starts off. It's the movie you start with for this continuity, which we've referenced a couple times. The Flash goes back in time and does what he does best: fuck some shit up. Barry fucking up timelines is his. That's it. That's his.
It's the MO.
Like Barry ain't meant a timeline he ain't wanted to mess up. He goes back and changes so his mom doesn't die when he's a child, because that is his backstory. His mother died when he was a kid. If you've seen the Flash TV show, they did not do a good job of the Flashpoint Paradox in season 2. But this is the great version of the Flashpoint Paradox because it does show you the real ripple effects that him changing the past and then trying to go back and change it again, the ripple effects it would have. Thomas Wayne becomes Batman because when Joe Chill tries to steal Martha's pearls in Crime Alley on that night, his gun does go off, but it accidentally shoots Bruce. Martha or Thomas. Thomas beats Joe Chill to death. Martha goes insane from seeing her son die, and she becomes the Joker. Thomas Wayne becomes Batman and actually has no problem killing people, so he wields a 45. Superman, I don't know how the Flash changed his mom dying, but still, Superman's rocket misses Smallville, Kansas, and lands in the area where the U.S. government finds Superman. Barry just messed everything up.
You know what? And I wasn't opposed to him messing this one up though.
Seeing a little skinny ass Superman, that was okay with you?
Man,
Superman in need of a sandwich.
Like young Superman from Young Justice.
Man, but yeah, man, like yeah, Flashpoint Paradox.
That's why we should.
That had to be up on there.
That's why we should do the other list, because I'm pretty sure none of our movies matched.
No, on the next list we're doing, you'll see on this channel with Kev, that's gonna be a different one. But yeah, I mean, if you were looking for this list, you knew Flashpoint Paradox was gonna be on here. So, but the fact that it's both of our number ones, that's funny.
Not to mention that Dark Knight is on number one for the last list we did.
For real. But man, it was great doing this list with you. That is funny. I had a feeling we were gonna share some, but I didn't honestly think we were both gonna share Flashpoint Paradox. We've never even really talked about that in real life.
You know what though? We only shared 2 though.
Yeah, and that actually goes to speak to the great encompassing volume of films that we've gotten from the DC animated universe. Not even just the ones that are just in continuity, but any of them. You have hell, even an honorable mention could be Justice League New Frontier, which retells the origin of the Justice League. That one was great.
You know what? I'm gonna start watching, because I'm gonna start watching some, because a lot of them Justice League I have not watched half of the Justice League movies. I'm gonna start watching some of them.
Justice League New Frontier is good. It kind of is more of a Green Lantern film, but it's a great film because it does tell the origin of the Justice League, and it actually tells it back when it really happened. So it's in the 1960s aesthetic. So you see 1960s versions of everybody. So you have the Batman with the long ears. You have, I honestly changed my list as we were doing this, because there's so many movies. I forgot to put Lego Batman on my list originally. My original one was actually going to be The Dark Knight Part 2. I was real close to putting on, but I'm like, I kind of consider those one film, even though it is a Part 1 and a Part 2. For me, it's hard to separate both of them. It's like Kill Bill.
You know, I actually enjoy Batman versus Ninja Turtles too.
I heard that was good. I haven't seen that one yet because I don't know if my brain can take seeing my 2 favorite things from my childhood meeting.
Well, since DC bought Ninja Turtles, it's like you have no other choice now, because
I did see Batman. Was the
Ninja?
The anime one that just came out not too long ago. Yeah, don't watch that if you want to keep your love for Batman. They don't do a good job. Wow. But Kev, I appreciate you coming on doing another list with me, man. This one was really fun. Let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
All right, on Facebook, you can find me at Kevin Russ. On Instagram, on Twitter, you find me at Kamikaze Kev 007. And what else am I on? I'm on everything, but find me at McDonald's. Right.
Just make sure that shake machine working. You can follow the podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Apple, Google, and Pocket Cast. You can follow my fan page on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, Team Chaos, YouTube, Team Chaos, and a World of Kayos YT on IG. You can find me on Facebook at Chaos, Kayos. You can find me a part of Wakanda Black Nerdcast, as this page is on Facebook and that YouTube channel. If you're watching this, I truly do appreciate you taking your time. Make sure you are subscribed. Hit that bell icon and a like. Let me know what you think in the comments. What are your top 10 DC animated films? Did you agree with any of the ones we had on here? What is your favorite DC animated film that we left off this list? Because there were so many that we could have put on our list. Even with us naming 22 films, we still left off some good ones. Let us know in the comments. Appreciate you watching. I appreciate your time. I've been Chaos. You've been awesome. Nerd responsibly.
Deuces.